Thank you very much, Ravan, for joining Future Net Zero. We would like to start talking about the net zero commitment. Last week, City made a firm commitment to net zero target in a bid to become a world leader in climate change fight. So how can this be achieved?
So yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive plan, Dimitri. There's a plan to 2040, which is to get the square mile to meet net zero emission targets, which is quite a broad aim. And there's some quite specific targets along the way with that. The most notable one is that by 2027, we'll have got net zero carbon emissions on our own operations. That's the City of London's own assets. And then by 2040, we will have achieved what they call Scope 3 net zero, which is with all of our indirect emissions, and those will include all of our supply chains and our financial investments as well. So it's quite a far-reaching statement we've made, but we think it's achievable by that kind of margin, which is 10 years ahead of the government's own targets of 2050.
So let's talk about the measures that you're going to take and what this commitment means for people living and working in the area, and how our businesses are going to be affected by this net zero commitment.
Sure. Well, there's obviously a built environment changes that are going to come in. You're going to see much more prevalence towards pedestrianisation and cycling within the square mile. So active transport is a big part of this. You're also going to see quite a lot of greening around the city. So we're looking at adding in sort of greening from the perspective of shading and cooling as well, which again, in the hotter summer months can make quite a difference to the way the city will look and feel. We're also looking at using quite a lot of the investments we're making into our city parks, and I think you will see quite a lot of change physically in the structure of the city with those changes. For those living in the square mile and working in the square mile, there is going to be a cycle of changes with those buildings, with reducing energy consumption, putting in various measures to make building management better, and all in the aim to reduce the carbon output from all of these assets that we have.
We know that the City of London Corporation is going to invest £68 million fighting climate change over the next 6 years, creating around 800 green jobs. What about the supply chains and the logistics? How is this sector going to be affected by this?
So the £68 million, I'm glad you've touched on that. I mean, that's coming straight out of our own operational savings. It's coming out of our own investment funds, and so it will not affect our day-to-day operations as a local authority. And that was quite important. It was important that we had a funded, financed plan for attacking climate change, and we felt that it was right that it was done in this way. So the 68 million is a firm commitment by us to invest into our future, and you're going to see a breakdown of how that is used in time to come. I think 15 million of that is actually assigned towards sort of damage prevention, if you like. So things around flood prevention, around making sure our roads are more resilient to flooding and weather. And so all of these improvements added up will make a huge difference to the city.
How can this ambitious plan can ensure that this sustainable model could be commercially successful as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where we are going to be bringing in, if you like, the corporate world with us. This is not just us acting on our own. We can't operate and achieve these aims in a silo. So we will be working with SMEs, we'll be supporting SMEs, we'll be working with corporates, and we are going to be setting up a fund which they can contribute to as well, and they can participate in to help their own corporate aims towards net zero. But it's a very much a holistic approach. But the idea is that the city corporation takes very much a lead on it and sets an example on making changes ourselves, and hopefully those learnings can then be adopted by others.
Which do you think is the main and the biggest challenge in this net zero journey?
So you've got to understand geography and the background of the City of London, and we've got a lot of heritage sites. So you know, the skyline. If you look at the skyline of the City of London, you've got all these great skyscrapers everywhere, but actually there's a lot of heritage buildings in and amongst that, and it's making sure that those buildings can be net zero, that they can be sustainable for the long term, without damaging that fabric of the city that everyone does love and enjoy. And so one of the reasons why we've set 2040 as a realistic target for achieving all of this is that we can work around the lease cycles of these various buildings so that we don't disrupt office operations, and that we don't disrupt ongoing day-to-day business within the city. It's important that we work with business, and that we work with the residents and the workers around us.
In terms of renewables, what's the role of renewables in this journey?
Absolutely. So obviously energy is one of the biggest impactors on carbon emissions, and we've recognized that early on. We've already done a lot of work to source our own electricity, for example, from renewable only sources. That's going to continue, and that will fit under the scope 2 targets that we've got, which are around indirect emissions from the generation of purchased electricity, steam, heating, and cooling systems, and these will be this is consumed by the city more generally. So there is an absolute requirement within our plan to achieve all of our power from renewable sources only.